Welcome everyone to SuperHuman Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Dr. Matthew Accurso, and I am so grateful to be with you here once again. And like always, I am going to be bringing you men and women that are doing amazing, profound things on this planet. And the man that I have on today, to me, is like a modern day James Bond, but even better because he's got the style 10 times over James Bond. His name is Evan Delaney. And the cool thing about Evan was he was born into the fashion industry. He was raised by a professional violinist who was his father, and he had a mother who was a professional dancer. And he was in a suit attending concerts at the age of 3. Starting professionally at the age of 19, Evans worked for Chanel, Calvin Klein, and YSL. And I will say, on top of his extremely impressive professional career, he also has a heart of gold. He is a man among men. The way he speaks, the way he acts, the way he exemplifies his trade. So he not only looks amazing on the outside, but this is a man that looks amazing on the inside as well. So Evan, without further ado, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Wow, I'm very grateful. That's you said a lot of beautiful things about me. I don't know if I deserve any of them, but thank you. And thank you for letting me be with you. It's a great privilege.
Absolute honor on this end as well. And I'm excited to talk with you today about what you created in this world. I mean, you're creating experiences for people unlike anything that I've ever seen. You know, in my world of high performance, you know, I've been around professional stylists. I've been around a lot of people in different types of trades. And I can honestly say, just going on your Instagram alone and seeing what you're creating is, bar none, some of the best that I've seen. And I know that others would say the same thing. Let's start out with your story. You know, you've been in a suit since you were 3. You're from a family that obviously art is crucial to their form and the way that they approach life.
Yes.
How did that mold you into the man you are today?
Well, I think if you asked probably 100 different people if they felt like that was a normal upbringing, they'd probably tell me that it was not. So it might have been borderline abuse to be resolved on the weekends, no less. But I think probably being raised in an environment where my dad, in addition to being a professional violinist, he also taught in the school districts. He taught strings instruments in District 11 public schools. So we didn't have a lot of money. In fact, we had very little money, and he got a teacher's salary. My mom, I don't even know if she got paid, but what we did have, my dad lived the life of a rich man because he valued his time, you know, as did my mom, and he valued the beautiful things in life. And so that was part of his life. It became part of our life. So the arts were just what we grew up in. So beauty, how things looked, how they sounded, and really it was manifested even in our lifestyle at home. I mean, it was just a very, it was a beautiful upbringing, really. So that I think that's probably how I came to love what I do today. I don't know.
That's really neat. That's really neat. And so as you grew up, did you find that there was a draw for you to style? Is that something that just naturally came to you?
Well, you know, I think so. I've always enjoyed clothing. I've always loved color. I love style. I was either going to be, I really wanted to be a cook, which was an artistic side. I took drafting in school, which was drawing. So I definitely I failed all my academic courses. So, yeah.
Right here. I know. It's funny.
Right.
People will say like you have your doctorate. How did you do that? And I was like, for the first 10 years of my life, I really did not enjoy school. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think it was always that bend. And then in high school, I got a job as a fragrance rotator. So one of my friends, older friends that had the hiring ability, I would go back to Colorado in the summertime, and they would let me work for Calvin Klein and Chanel and Yves Saint Laurent, and I'd spray cologne on people in the mall. So that was kind of the transition from, that was my first job in the fashion industry. And it just, did I always have that bend? Yeah, I probably did. It just wasn't, I didn't have a means of expressing it other than how I chose to dress at school, really.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know.
So as far as, and I heard this, and we'll give a shout out to Matthew Peters, by the way, a Preeminence podcast. He's the one that got me thinking about this. Yeah, he is. Clothing making the man, or clothing being a direct reflection of what's on the inside. What do you think about those two statements? Do you agree with them?
Yeah, I do. And we talk about that, and we can continue the discussion. I firmly believe that you can put beautiful clothing on a person who is ugly on the inside, and it's only going to go, it's not going to go very far. And so the reality is I believe that it's the last thing that a man should put on. So I truly believe that he should be doing the work on the inside, become a good person. Are you a gentleman? How do you treat other people? How do you think? How do you speak? What are your internal thoughts? And then, I mean, all of that is, if you have all of that together, you can't help but desire to look good.
Yeah.
So I think that it's the last part, not the first part, in being a good person and being a gentleman and being well dressed.
Yeah. Wow. And one of the things I love, for those people who have not got a chance to check out what you create and the experiences you create, is I immediately got a sense of sleekness, classiness, masculinity, and even an air of integrity and honesty. And that's hard to explain for me, because I've never kind of felt that from clothing, but that's what I feel from you and your designs. What are some things that you're thinking about when you're creating these amazing styles and bringing in color and bringing in cuts? What are you trying to create for a man when you're doing all this?
That's a great question. I think when we're putting things together, that was one of the things that I learned in my years at Neiman Marcus was, and now actually I shouldn't say that, in my months of Neiman Marcus, it was a very interesting experience. But what I realized was that most people were just selling clothes, and they had to, because that's their job, and that's what they do, and that's how they feed their family. So there's no disrespect to any salespeople, but then that's the pinnacle of retail, this establishment that I was in, selling the finest clothing, global brands, arguably the most expensive clothing you get your hands on, and very well made, beautiful stuff. But they were just selling it. And so even in our industry, there are trade shows where basically they'll go in and they'll show these guys how to sell clothes, and that's fine. You have to do it, but in my mind, if you're really serving your customer, if you're serving your client, who will ultimately become your friend, what you're trying to do is envelop who they are as a human, and then style their wardrobe and their clothing for them. And so rather than sell what you got at a good price because you found some fabric for cheap, or rather than design something someone else is doing, you have consulted with your guy. You're trying to figure out what kind of person are they, and how can you complement what they've worked so hard to accomplish. And so a lot of times we're dealing with people with very high levels. They're on national media. They have high-level presentations. They're C-level people. Rather than just selling clothing, to answer your question, sorry, I'm going along. It's a long way around the cup.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
But the reality is, when we style these things and choose colors and choose cuts, they're really to complement the person we are consulting, not to sell our clothing or to push our brand. And we'll have an influence, obviously, and we might send them a direction because we know that they have the ability to wear that, or it's going to benefit them. But generally, it has to do with them, not us. And that's how we style, or that's how I try and design my clothes.
Yeah, I love that.
Sorry.
That's great. And I love all the background behind it. It's interesting. I had a mentor of mine when I was just going into graduate school, and we were talking about the way you present yourself in all areas of life. And he was talking about creating experiences for people with clothing. And I had never heard that before, like creating an experience for someone else. Because oftentimes, and my perspective has changed, and even reading through your stuff, it's changing my perspective even more of what our clothing not only does for us, looking in the mirror and knowing, okay, like when you put on a suit that really resonates with who you are, I mean, the confidence that you have, my confidence goes through the roof.
Yes.
And I never thought about what that does for other people and actually serving other people through the clothing that you're wearing. Talk about that for a moment, because that's something that you exemplify so well, Evan, and then you just talked about it, knowing the man, and I know you do this in your experiences, like learning about that person and then creating an experience for them and a clothing for them that not only helps them to feel like they can take on whatever challenges in front of them, but also speaking to other people through that image.
Yeah, so you're right, and that's kind of an intangible. So if you go to sit down with a guy, and I have an appointment with a guy for the first time, he's probably a referral. We don't advertise, but he still doesn't get that. And so from a personal perspective, the payoff is tremendous. And not that you necessarily wear the suit so you can get the date, or so you can, I mean, that's a great ancillary benefit, but the reality is those are things that come along after you've decided that you're going to put these clothes together, or hire somebody good to put these clothes together. I think it's really great to respect other people with how you are put together. And that's not a joke. If you smell good, and I'm not talking, I have a funny story about that. My dad, when I was in 8th grade, I had this humongous, have you ever smelled Polo, just the original Polo?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So it's literally probably the strongest cologne. You could probably kill bugs with it if you had to.
Absolutely. We would douse each other in the locker room.
Right,
That's cool.
We're probably close to the same age. I had an 8-ounce bottle. It was a huge bottle, and my dad would make me take it outside to put it on in the morning, because I would speak up the whole house. So I digress, but what I'm saying is, if you smell good, if you look good, if you're well presented, your shoes are shined, your teeth are together, all of these things, people want to be around you. They want to listen to you. They give you dignity. They give you space. They respect your wishes, because they know automatically that you respect them based on how you've taken time to present yourself to the world.
Yes.
And so it's really, you're not giving to get, but you do get it. I mean, it's a fact. My son and I travel frequently, and there is literally not a time that we travel that somebody does not stop us and tell us one way or another, hey, you guys look fantastic. And it could be the shoes, it could be the jacket, whatever the case is, but why not take that advantage if it's available to us?
Absolutely.
We live in this world of opportunity. Spend a little time, spend a little money, get it together, and wow, your world will open up. It really will.
Right. Yeah. You're so right.
So I'm getting fired up. I apologize.
I love it. I mean, come on. I mean, anybody who's going to have something designed for them, whatever it is, should want that person that's doing that for them to be fired up and passionate. Obviously, you exemplify that, Evan, in what you do, and it comes through your clothing. I would encourage everybody out there listening right now, go check out Evan's Instagram. I know he's got a website, evandelaney.com, and go check out his stuff so you can really see what we're talking about and see Evan in action. I wanted to ask you something real quick. Do you dress up on airplanes?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You do it purposefully?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, it's incredible the response you get from dressing right, and particularly traveling. I mean, we travel because we visit clients on the East and the West Coast. We only have a few here in Colorado, but absolutely, unequivocally, always dressed. In fact, we even have a rule as a family: we dress on vacation. And so the reality is, and I'm not like, I don't have these little, robotic kids, but the reality is, if you look nice,
It's
I'm
true.
beating a dead horse, but especially traveling, it absolutely works.
Yeah, it's true. I honestly have never gotten such personalized, intricate questions than when I am dressing up.
Yes.
Like anytime I dress up to go somewhere, especially on airplanes. This last trip that I just took to Nashville, I always get at least 3 or 4 questions about what I do when I'm in certain suits that I wear on planes.
Yeah.
Hands down. And actually some of my clients have come from airplanes because of the clothing that I wore.
Oh yeah, we do too frequently. Frequently happens.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's really neat. I love that. And the reason I asked that question is there was a mentor of mine that was a firm believer that you dress up on airplanes, no matter what. And he's 75 years old, and to this day dresses to the nines. Nicest dressed guy on an airplane.
I believe it.
Yeah. I heard something at the event that I was just hosting that was interesting. I walked out and I was in the hallway, and one of the vendors that was out in the hall came up to me, and he actually used to fit people. You'd probably cringe at where he used to fit people. I think it was like Men's Warehouse or something like that.
That's all right. No, that's good.
You got to start somewhere, right?
You're right. Exactly.
Right. So,
I like it.
yeah. And he said something. He said, fit people don't have to dress nice. They look good in anything. Mm-hmm. And, I was like, something in me just didn't sit right with that, and we started having a conversation about it. And really what it came down to was in that brief 15, 20 minutes conversation, I kind of found out some things about him and how, he really didn't value himself. Yes. And he was kind of mirroring that onto kind of giving excuses. Like, this is why someone doesn't have to dress nice or look good or something like that. Exactly. What do you think about that statement? What are your thoughts on that?
As far as, that's an interesting question. Fit people need to dress. They don't need to dress. I don't agree with it. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I 100% disagree with that. Maybe where he was going with that thought was, I've actually never, I don't agree with that. Yeah. I think
it was an interesting statement. It kind of threw me off too. But I'll tell you where my mind went with it was that sometimes we can hide behind certain things that we like to put up, right? And it might be, and I think we all kind of put those things up, like whether maybe you're trying to stay fit to hide something inside that you don't want people to show, or maybe you're trying to stay overweight because you want to hide something that you don't want people to show. But this kind of getting into this question I was going to ask you about, you make a statement. You stated you believe someone can look too perfect.
Oh yeah.
I feel like, and that really resonated with me. Talk about that. What does that mean to you?
So I think one of the things that I was doing a little thinking about our conversation today, and I think one of the important pieces of showing your message, or at least giving people what you believe in, is transparency. And so if there's some transparency in your life, then people are generally more drawn to you. So this facade that you're talking about, however that maybe, is going to keep people at arm's length. And so I feel like, what's your question again? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Someone looking too perfect.
Oh yeah. Too perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's too played, too stayed when everything is put together perfectly, and it becomes robotic and non-transparent. And so what happens is there's no place where there's no chink in the armor, and the guard is up with the person you're speaking with at all times. It's literally too perfect. So when I put my clients together and we're helping them dress for an occasion, there will always be something that is imperfect, whether it's just a little bit of a difference in your hairdo, or maybe it's your tie is just off center a little bit. Maybe it's a pocket square that's not perfectly done. These are just little areas where it looks natural, and you have just literally woken up and this is who you are in the morning. You don't spend 60 hours because the sense of dishonesty when someone is that perfect and that put together, it can't be possible. It's not true.
Yep.
So that's the little piece of this that is difficult. So if you've got a guy who's dressing you or a gal who's dressing you and wants everything perfect and everything matches, it's off. It's not going to work. And that is a touch. I believe that, and I don't know if I have that touch, but I believe that very few people do. And I don't think it can be trained. But I think it's vital. And I think that's that little piece of, I guess, transparency or little human touch that will take you further with the people you're trying to talk to. And
that's true.
Yeah, especially even on a big screen. If you're talking in front of 1,000 people or 10,000 people or a TV audience, I cannot tell you how poorly these guys are put together on national television. Well, and it's no disrespect for the people doing their job. Yeah. And that's fine. And they're doing a fine job. And, you know, I don't want to disrespect anyone that's on any network and doing their work. But I will just tell you, if they could get this touch, people will be more effective.
Yeah. No, and it's interesting because you're describing part of the things that I'm noticing in your designs and the way that you put a man together. It's very interesting. Like I couldn't put my finger on it, but now that you're talking, sometimes you'll see a person that looks so put together that now it's not giving a positive impression. It's almost like, okay, it seems fake. It seems forced, right? It seems like they kind of just went a little bit too over the top and now it's just not really working.
That's right. It's not natural.
Not natural. Exactly. That's very interesting. What are some absolute essentials that every man needs in order to stand out in a room?
Well, this is probably getting into your world more than it is mine. And that is, you know, what are you, I'm going to go back to what are you doing on the inside? Like what work are you doing in the morning?
Yeah.
I love some of your questions that you were talking to me about earlier on your,
the flow sheet.
On the flow sheet. Yeah. And I love, this stuff is so fantastic, but it really speaks of things that don't have anything to do with the shower and the dressing. It's, you know, are you a good person?
Yeah.
What's your motivation in life?
Yeah.
What are your habits? What are your thought processes? What work are you doing for yourself? I mean, the list goes on and on. Are you trying to serve someone or are you trying to be selfish?
Yeah.
I mean, so those are the things, like, so to answer your question, before I even come into the picture, most of my clients are doing that work. And if they're not doing that work, they no, you know what? I have to say, all of my guys, and they're all successful guys in their own levels, they're all subscribers to this way of thinking. It's powerful. And I think the next natural step is to go ahead and put these essentials together on the outside.
Yeah.
So if those, you know, if to answer your question more directly, then let's say you got all that, you've got your personal hour and a half in the morning taken care of, whatever that is, to be a better person.
Mm-hmm.
The essentials then have to do with your, I mean, really your grooming. Wow. So important.
Yeah, for sure. Your identity, right? Your identity is tied into the image that you're portraying.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And the real personal stuff. So it's the fragrance. Like, I smell good. I mean, just put on a little cologne. It's great. I mean, how hard is that?
Yeah.
Choose the right one, by the way. Don't get the polo.
Yeah. Or the brute, right?
Oh yeah, right, exactly. You know, the nose hair. Go ahead and get some white strips. You know, and by the way, I'm getting older now. I'm 47. Hair's growing places I didn't even know it grew. So like, look in the light. You know, go in the sunlight and double check and make sure all these things are taken care of. Then if you want to go down to it, go ahead and shine your shoes, please, please. If you're wearing tennis shoes, make sure they're clean. Because women absolutely look at shoes.
Yep.
You know, and we could make a long list of things, but I would say inside, grooming, shoes, then clothing. How's that?
Yeah, I love it. I love that. And I think you know, those are character builders, right, Evan? I mean, when I was young, you know, taking care of your stuff, you know, is a character builder. It teaches responsibility. It teaches pride in your work. I can't tell you, you know, and I'm Italian. So, I mean, shoes are a big deal to me. They've always been a big deal to me. And my mom, who was, you know, very, very feisty Sicilian woman, that was her biggest thing, was shoes. So interesting you brought up the woman and looking at shoes, because that is something my mom nailed home to me since I can remember, is keep your shoes clean.
Love it, man. I love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, so I completely agree. So along the lines of mindset, Evan, give us something that you think about often that inspires you to want to create the things that you created, the experiences that you're creating for clients all over the world.
That's a good one. What inspires my creation? What inspires my life?
Yeah.
I think it's probably the results that my clients and friends get from what they entrust with me. So, you know, I don't think any small part of their success is the clothing, and I appreciate the fact that I've been entrusted. So I guess we put gratitude in that piece too, to be honest. Gratitude inspires me. I'm grateful that my clients have entrusted me with their look. So as I'm putting things together, the inspiration, probably externally is making sure I'm doing what I need to do for my people and I don't let them down. Number one. Yeah. As far as creative inspiration, I think creation. I spend a lot of time. One of my favorite things to do is be in the mountains, whether it's running or biking. Not so much biking, but running, and that is solitude and creation. It definitely gives me an opportunity to recharge internally, and then be ready to design. And you know, the color. I'll tell you, the color in creation is. In nature is extraordinary. They're perfect. There's no clashing in what you see in a flower. I mean, there's colors in flowers and the colors in the sky and the earth. They're all beautiful. So that's probably, I guess, an internal inspiration to being creative, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I think that especially with what you're doing, I mean, it's being shown, like everybody is seeing it, you know, and at the same time, you know, you're creating an internal dialogue from the external creation. So I think it's really beautiful what you're talking about. What are some things that you're passionate about, or maybe one thing that two things that you're passionate about that our entrepreneurs out there could benefit from?
Yeah, so I like that. One is gratitude, and real gratitude, not like, you know, because you can fake gratitude stuff, I think.
Yeah.
You know, you and I read the same stuff, so
yeah,
we know all about the gratitude journals and like all that stuff. And I mean, I believe it. I think it's important, but I mean true gratitude, which means you've got to I think that has to do with the things that money can't buy.
Mm.
So the family, truly the family, a good meal, slowing down, being present. So all of those things I think fall into that gratitude umbrella, which drives an entrepreneur truly.
Mm.
Like, how can you not be grateful for the freedom to express yourself in a world the way you want to? That's just incredible. So gratitude. The other piece is transparency, because I mean, don't try and fool anybody.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I do with my clients. They know I drive a Honda Accord.
Yeah.
That's not very sexy when you're selling $3,500 suits, right? But I mean, it's what it is. And so my life is, my clients know my life. And my friends know my life. And so I think transparency allows you an opportunity to really get your message across. Don't fake it.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you just dropped that card, because my uncle was an intricate influencer in my life. And he's one of the reasons why I do what I do today as a physician, knowing that our job in this world is not to diagnose and prescribe. Our job in this world is to point out the cause and help people feel empowered about their health and to take back their health and not feel like they're attached to a doctor or a medical facility to get them well. And that's really essentially the problem with our healthcare system. I won't get on a soapbox right now, but what I meant to say is he drove a beat up old Cadillac well into his 40 into his 50s.
Yes.
And I remember doctors talking about him saying, why is that guy still driving around, this beat up old clunky Cadillac? And he had millions of dollars in the bank, and the thing is, at the end of the day, he said, Matt, he's like, I drive that around to keep me grounded to the people that I serve.
Love it.
He said, because I have to have that, because it helps me to know why I do what I do every single day.
I love it.
And I love that you dropped that, because it's so, transparency is everything, letting people know, hey, look, this is me, but also realizing that, like, we're not going to bring this stuff with us. Like, this stuff is wonderful and great.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, you're like, what we're talking about, it's the inside that makes the outside. It's so cool what you're saying. Really neat.
Thank you.
So I kind of have a rapid fire round that I go through. You ready?
I think so.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So first question is, what brings the most peace in your life?
The most peace in my life. I know it's supposed to be rapid fire. The most peace in my life.
No, you don't. You can think about it. You can think.
Okay. The most peace in my life is when my family's happy.
Love it. Love it. What helps you enter into flow state, or flow meaning, concentration in the zone?
Eliminating distractions, which is nearly impossible, especially in my world, super visual world that we live in, and my world even more so. Eliminating distractions and making sure that I follow my routine in the morning of personal development.
Love that. What do you like to do in your free time?
Oh, man. I love being with my family. I have to say that. That's number one. So they always get priority. My second is I like running in the mountains.
Love that. What mountains do you run in?
So we've got a trail. Pikes Peak is a 14,000 foot mountain here in Colorado.
Oh yeah, I love Pikes Peak.
Do you?
Yes.
It's
I
great.
have. Yes, many times.
So that's my home trail. It's 15 minutes away from my house. So I'll run that every chance I get, which is usually a couple times a week.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Great.
What was the last habit you formed and why?
The last habit I formed and why? Wow, that's great. I'm a big believer in habits. The last habit I formed, and I hold on to them, especially if they're successful. So I haven't formed any recent new habits, but I'm a big believer in good ones. So am I allowed to share my good habits?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Early morning. So, get up at between 4 and 5, read the good books, think well, and sometimes it takes longer to do those things. Get your mind in a space where you can perform through the day. And so if I had to say, what is that? It's the habit of habits changed my life. I was 40 pounds overweight, thinking poorly 15 years ago. And so good habits is my new habit.
Love that. I love that. I've never had that answer. I love that answer. What books do you recommend? And maybe we can keep the book to like, are there any style books that you recommend? And it can be another book that's not a style book, but I'd love for you to give maybe one style book, one book that's spoken into your life.
Sure. Yeah, I wrote down, am I allowed to tell you my 3 favorite?
Absolutely.
That was a great question. I love that question. One, I mean, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this anymore, but I'm going to tell you my favorites. And then obviously people can, on a principle basis, can decide what works for them.
Yeah.
But from a spiritual perspective, the Bible changed my life. There's a book, there's a book called The Monk That Sold His Ferrari. And I don't know if you've read that or not, but
I have not read it.
Robin Sharma.
Okay.
Great book. It's a great book. And it has to do with accountability, which I had a problem with. So that definitely changed my life. And then Tribe of Mentors is one of my favorites. Tim Ferriss, exactly. Yeah. Just because it's a quick hit, but it's really good stuff. You can't beat it. I go to that. Those 3 pretty much are my favorites.
Love it. Love it. If you could pick one action step for our listeners to take from this call, what would it be?
There's one. It's don't hesitate. And the reason why I say that, there's a lady named Mel Robbins, and she's got that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You've probably seen that, where it's an action and like go after it. And so I would say don't hesitate at all. With what you want to do and what you want to get done with the right motive intact. So don't do it for money, but don't hesitate. Love that.
Love that. Evan, if our listeners want to go somewhere to learn more about you, what's the best place they can visit?
Probably the website. Thank you. You're very kind to mention that. It's just evandelaney.com. And then they can access our other pages through that. So it's kind of you to offer and ask.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Evan, it has been such an honor and a privilege to have you on. Thank you so much for allowing us into your world and giving us insights into how you've created not only amazing experiences, but you have essentially created yourself to be such an amazing, influential person in the world today.
Matt, you're an absolute gentleman, and I can't thank you enough for letting me be a part of your world.
Absolutely. It was an honor. And to everybody out there, thank you so much for spending time with Evan and I. We truly appreciate you. We honor you. I hope my prayer for you today is that you take what you've heard today from Evan and that you apply it to your life. And remember, don't beat yourself up. Take baby steps today. You've been given the breath in your lungs. You've been given the sight in your eyes. You've been given the hearing in your ears. And maybe even you don't have any of those things. But what you do have is you have life, and you have it today. And so live it abundantly. Be the person that you've been created to be. And I'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.